Hello, beautiful people. My name is Emma.
And I'm MC.
And we are your hosts of the G-Forces podcast. So today, it was the Italian Grand Prix at Monza, because there are technically 2 Grand Prix in the country of Italy. But this one was at Monza, the Italian Grand Prix.
The Temple of Speed.
Yeah, the fastest track in the world.
Known as. Yeah, and it
got faster this weekend.
Some marks, this weekend.
It's pretty cool.
I'm pretty sure, and I'll get into it when we go into the track details, but I'm pretty sure the fastest lap was also broken.
It was.
And that was something that's been in place for 21 years, since 2004, which is kind of crazy. So a lot happened. I think it was the race that a lot of people needed, including some drivers. I think that there's definitely a lot of talking points.
But not the race that some people needed.
Yeah, there was definitely highs and lows, like there is every weekend. But
it was not great for some drivers, I will say that.
And some teams just keep doing the same silly little games.
Ain't that the truth?
We'll get into it.
Apparently the drivers don't have an issue with it. But again, we'll get into it.
Yeah.
So we haven't done like a normal recap episode kind of in a while, so it's going to be our normal structure. We will get into the track info now. MC?
Okay, so the official race name for this weekend was the Formula One Gran Premio d'Italia 2025. The track name is the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza. So this is in Monza, as we've said. This has been on the schedule since the inauguration of the sport in 1950, and I believe it celebrated 75 years of the track this year.
I think this is the one track that they've never skipped ever.
Yeah. The circuit length here is 5.793 kilometers or 3.59 miles, and the race distance is 306.72 kilometers or 190.587 miles. The lap record used to be held by Rubens Barrichello. He did this in 2004, and he did it in 1 minute and 21.046 seconds.
Oh, yeah, that definitely got broken.
And this was broken this year by Lando Norris, who did it in 1 minute and 20.901 seconds. So that was lap in the race.
Yeah,
and then Max placed a 1:17 during quali. So definitely faster times than ever seen before, which was pretty cool to see because I feel like
next year it's not going to be like this at all.
No, yeah, it's going to be interesting to compare times to see how close they get to Lando's now record.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so that's the track info.
Cool. All right, we'll get into practice now. Practice 1 started off, we had a few faces that new, but not really new, that were in practice 1. So we had Alex Dunn, he was in, or Dunn? I think it was Dunn. He was in Oscar's car for this, and then Paul Aaron was in Franco's car for FP1. It's their normal rookie practice sessions. And yes, we have seen Paul Aaron in a Sauber car for a practice session. He was on loan for them.
Yeah, they came to some joint agreement.
It's probably because Alpine has decided to collect everyone.
Yeah.
So, and we did see Paul Aaron suffer a spin at the second chicane, and then we unfortunately also did see Alex Dunn. So he was the first one to put softs on, and he was only able to get a lap that was good enough for, 18th, I think it was, or 15th? I wrote 3rd for some reason, and that's not what it was at all. It was 15th. Don't know what my notes were thinking. But most of the time during these rookie practice sessions, it's not them trying to show up and be as fast as possible. Usually they have an entire criteria, basically a game plan of things that the team wants them to do, and they're just working through that plan.
Yeah, it's just data collection at a non-risk
and adding
level.
Experience to them in an F1 car.
Yeah, and that's the thing is we've seen, it was Kimi last year with George's car. You really don't want to, you're just borrowing it. And so you want to treat it. This is not your
car.
Yeah,
so if you crash it, it's not really a great look.
Yeah, and it's just frustrating to the team because it's,
It's frustrating
work.
to the team because the mechanics are going to have to rebuild the car. It's frustrating for the driver whose car that actually is because now they might miss practice sessions that could be really valuable to them. All around, not a great situation.
But it doesn't happen often.
No. There was a brief red flag at about 25 minutes into this session because Isaac went off at the Ascari turn, chicane, whatever it is. And he ended up rejoining, but when he did that, he brought a bunch of gravel onto the track, and so they needed to clear the track off. Other than that, that's really all I had for FP1. The top 5 for FP1 were Lewis, then P2 was Charles, P3 Carlos, P4 Max, and P5 Kimi. So we started off the Italian Grand Prix weekend with Ferrari on top, which was a great way for them to start off the weekend.
Yeah, you also saw McLaren struggle a bit more than they have in the past few races.
I'm saying it's Monza. Every year, the years that they're good, they're always okay at Monza. Like, it's the one race where they are actually having to race people, where in other races, they're miles ahead.
Yeah, they seem to consistently struggle at this track. They're not unaware of it, but I do feel like it was more noticeable in this FP1 session.
Yeah.
That they were definitely playing around tweaking with the car.
Yeah, agreed.
FP2.
So at about 10 minutes into this session, Kimi actually brought out the red flags. Unfortunately, it was the same issue as last year. He beached his car in the gravel on the outside of the second Lesmo corner. I think Kimi is in his head. I think he had the pressure of being a 19-year-old joining the Mercedes team and the expectations that the world put on him to be like amazing, becoming like top 5 all the time. And I think he's had a few bad races and it's really gone in his head.
Well, I also think too, you're just seeing it's a really long season.
Mm-hmm.
I know they just got back from summer break, but I do think that the exhaustion can get to you. You really have to get used to like this way of life for, majority of the year. It's hard. So I'm sure there's multiple factors. I hope for the latter half of the season and the possibilities of next year, I hope that he can kind of figure it out and find his footing again.
I'm sure Mercedes can tell what's going on and will try to do something to help him.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed. Gabby and Oscar, they both were investigated for 2 different incidents during this. What were the incidents? Do you know what they were?
Oh my God. No, I can't remember. I feel like I read about it, but I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
It clearly wasn't that big of a deal because neither one of them ended up getting a penalty for it. So who cares? And then Carlos was in the top 3 again for this practice session, which is really huge because he hasn't been doing that well, honestly. He's been doing okay, and it seems like every race he's got bad luck. It seems like he's really frustrated.
Listen, the irony about it, though, is that he's doing better than we've seen Williams do in years.
Yeah.
So the pundits at one point during the FP, I think it was 2 session, stated that the 70 points, not counting this weekend, the points that they won, the 70 points that they accumulated this season is the amount that they had accumulated over the last 7 seasons prior to this. Like, that's how bad they were. That's how much they struggled. And so I think it's a difficult car. We've gotten a lot of opinions from James Vowles that, like, they're not putting as much thought into this car because they're focusing on 2026.
Well, especially at this point in the season.
Yeah, and so I think we're just seeing a struggle. You kind of brought up a curious point of, like, how long do you think Carlos will stay at Williams?
I think he expected more success than he's currently getting.
Yeah. Especially because of the success of Alex.
Well, yeah, especially because of the way Alex is performing this season. I think that he expected, okay, it's just going to take me a couple of races to get used to the car.
It also feels like he just keeps getting hit with, like, the bad luck stick.
Yeah, like crashes and penalties.
But we'll get to it.
Yeah.
So, it's good to see him up there while it lasted.
Yeah. Practice 3, nothing really happened. The only thing I have is the top 3. So the top 3 for Orlando, P2 was Charles, and P3 was Oscar. So things are kind of going back to normal.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue was gravel. That was really it.
Yeah, it's fine. But that's all I have for practice. Do you have anything else?
Nope, that's it for me.
Okay, we'll get into quali then. So for Q1, we have the one strange thing was, so we've seen this a few times with some teams this season, where some teams will start off with Q1 on medium tires. So that's what Mercedes did. Everybody else was on softs. I think that this is good for George, but it seems like it's not working great for Kimi.
Yeah, I have to look a little bit more closely each weekend at how similar they're running George and Kimmy, and if they're doing very similar strategy, and if it's just not agreeing with Kimmy at all.
Because Kimi was complaining about how he was struggling so hard with grip on the mediums. And I mean, that's how he ends up beaching. That's how he ends up like hitting the curbs a bit too much. And I don't know. Sometimes I just think that maybe they don't need to put them on the same game plan.
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement.
Especially with how much he's been struggling, was it really the right move to put him on the weaker tire for the not the
Yeah.
slower tire? Like
See
I
what
think
he can do
he
and
needs
some-
the confidence boost.
Yeah.
Both Williams drivers did exceed track limits at some point during this qualifying session. They often don't really show like the midfield teams when they're actually doing their qualifying laps. So like we didn't see them actually exceed track limits.
Yeah.
But this was in the post-quali report, so that did happen at some point. And then the second run during this qualifying session for Ocon. So the plan, I guess, originally was for them to wait for a few other cars to go out, and then they would follow behind. That did not end up working out. So Ocon was the first person out on track, and so I think he was hoping to get a tow from somebody else.
Yeah. That was the impression.
And he ended up not getting that. And so it was definitely a bit of a struggle for him. Do you have anything else for Q1?
Not really. I just think it was interesting that track limits were a bit of an issue. I do think that Ferrari were a bit all over the place. They were in a good spot and then struggled. But yeah, knocked out of that session was Isaac Hadjar, Lance Stroll, Franco Colapinto, Pierre Gasly, and Liam Lawson. And honestly, like, can't really say what's going on with the Alpines anymore. It's just...
They're consistently at the back of the pack.
Oh my god, and something we didn't even talk about was that Pierre extended his contract with Alpine till 2028, which is kind of crazy.
I mean, it's job security, I guess.
Yeah, congrats.
That's all I can say about it.
Yeah.
It's nothing else.
Anyways.
I did feel bad for Isaac Hadjar. I mean, coming off of last week's win to then get knocked out in Q1. It did seem that he knew that this was going to happen. When he was pulling into the garage, his race engineer was like, "And that's P16 for you," and he was like, "Well, obviously."
Yeah, I also think it goes to show how Liam also performed though. So there was a struggle in that car this weekend.
Yeah.
You know, I think it just shows you that this is a tricky track that not every car agrees with, and that's something we notice. And it's pointed out every single year.
Yeah, 100%. For Q2, there ended up being a little bit of a late start because the stewards were cleaning the gravel off of the track because there's been a lot of people running into the gravel. I actually prefer a gravel trap over just like an escape route. I think it makes it a bit more spicy.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than a wall. You know?
That is true. It is actually much better than a wall.
I wonder what the drivers think about it. It's probably frustrating, though, because the amount of debris that's kicked up.
It wouldn't get kicked up if you stayed on track.
Oh, my God. Anyways.
Alex Albon, he did go wide right after they were able to get back on track. He did go wide at Ascari and got a bunch of gravel on the track. So completely defeated the purpose of the stewards cleaning everything off. It happens, though. Lando ended up locking up at one point really heavily into the first chicane, and he had to abandon that lap, and then he went into box. The commentators were saying that it was most likely he just didn't have enough fuel to do another lap. And I think that's exactly what it was. He just had to go in to get fuel, and then they just had to look at some stuff, and then they sent him back out to go do a lap.
Yeah. Max was showing a really strong effort. I feel like we were getting glimpses of the first kind of version of Max we saw 2 years ago.
2023 Max.
And he was working with a really, really fast time. In that session, he ended up coming in and placing a lap at 1 minute 19.140 seconds, which is crazy because, again, prior to this, it was like a minute 21. So to just see that, it was, I don't know, it was exciting because we haven't seen him on top in quite a few weeks.
Yeah.
This season.
Yeah, it's been a while. And it's nice to see Laurent Mekies do well as well.
Yeah, it was his first win as team principal. So
now you know who won.
Oh, sorry.
I assume you knew who won.
I figured.
Q3 was just the normal Q3. Nothing crazy happened.
Knocked out of Q2 was
yeah.
Ollie Behrman, Nico Hülkenberg, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon, and Esteban Ocon. I think the Williams is a little bit of a shocker for everyone because of how well they were performing during practice. But I think we've seen them kind of struggle in quali, and it's something that they both kind of touched upon.
Yeah.
So, Q3,
I don't really have anything for Q3. It just seemed like a normal Q3. Like, people are set their fastest laps. Like, Lando ends up going, first, and then Max comes in at the last second and ends up going first.
Yeah, there was one point where it was Oscar in P1, then Charles in P1, then Max in P1.
Yeah.
So
the order from Q3 was P1 Max, P2 Lando, P3 Oscar, P4 Charles, P5 Lewis, P6 George, P7 Kimi, P8 Gabby, P9 Fernando, and P10 Yuki. And that's it. All right, we're going to get into the race now.
So some grid placement changes that happened at the beginning of the race was that Isaac and Pierre were starting from the pit lane since they had new power unit elements. And so this kind of let a few people in the back move up. I mean, Isaac and Pierre were at the very end of the grid, so it was only an advantage for a small handful of drivers, but still.
It's interesting to me that they didn't change the power units before the weekend starts, because it's pretty normal for teams to change the power units before this race weekend. Like, Monza is the one that they change it at.
I don't know how many they have left, though. We're getting to that point in the season where they're running out, and so I don't know if they're just trying to hold on to them for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Lewis also had a 5-place grid penalty from last race, so he was moved from 5th to 10th. So a few people got to move up, and unfortunately, we saw him move further back. In the formation lap, all of a sudden, Nico was told to retire his car due to critical issues. It wasn't really elaborated on what was going on.
It wasn't elaborated at all.
There was a huge disappointment and confusion from Nico. Like, are you kidding? And we hadn't seen that in a while. I feel like the last time we saw it was Carlos it was a race this season with Williams where they were like...
It was after the formation lap. They were like, come in.
Yeah.
It sucks when that happens.
In the start, it was fairly clean, and Lando was trying really hard to pass Max and ended up in the grass a bit. And didn't this happen in another race where Lando ended up in the grass?
I think it was also against Max, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It just gave me, watching it, it was very deja vu-esque, where I was like, haven't we seen the same exact issue happen?
Well, yeah, because Max starts the same way every time.
Then, in the first chicane, Max cut the corner, and this obviously annoyed Lando, and Red Bull kind of immediately gave the position back, only for Max very quickly to take it back again.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are starting to learn the lesson of it's just not worth the risk. You can pass pretty quickly, like we saw Max do.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just not worth the investigation.
No.
Especially when it's going to be a 5-second penalty, or, I mean, they've been dishing out 10-second penalties left and right, it feels like, recently. So.
Well, sometimes, a lot of their 10-second penalties they've been dishing out recently have not been correct.
Yeah, there's
one that happens later on in the race that was like, excuse me?
Yeah. While all this is going on, Oscar had lost third place to Charles, but then Oscar took it back in what all the pundits were saying was a daring pass around the outside of Lesmo 1. So that was just an impressive moment. I feel like when we saw Oscar make the move, we immediately kind of discussed about how not to be critical of Lando, but to be critical of Lando, how Oscar just showed the confidence that we want from Lando when he gets stuck behind people.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it just feels like we're there for laps. And,
this is something that we've spoken about relating to Lando like a million times.
Yeah.
Like, it just feels like sometimes he's so scared. Not scared, but he just, like, does not take the risk. Like, he's almost like the risk isn't worth taking to an extreme extent where it's like, bro, sometimes, I mean, we're saying this not as people who are drivers, but, like, you just got to do it. Like,
And-
that's the reason why Oscar, I hate to say it, that's the reason why Oscar's beating you in the Drivers' Championship, because
he's been able to pull these more confident moves that make a change in his position.
yeah.
So that was going on. Charles then took the position again, and then finally, a few laps later, on lap 6, Oscar was able to take it back third. So that was a fun battle to follow. Lewis was also showing a strong effort, moving his way up from 10th to 6th. He was kind of able to I feel like there was probably obvious passion to perform well in front of this home crowd. Esteban Ocon was handed a 5-second penalty for forcing Stroll off the track, and this was another moment that was brought up and we saw on the screen while we were watching, but we didn't actually see the action happen.
This one was an obvious penalty. This one made sense to me.
Yeah. Lap 19 is when we see Ollie pit, and he was the first main car to really pit, because I think we thought Liam Lawson pitted at one point really early.
He did pit first.
Yeah, and so then Ollie pitted at lap 19, and that's when a slew of the mid to like later pack all pitted as well.
Yeah, the expected time for people to go into pit was about lap 22, depending on what tires they had.
Yeah.
This is a one-stop race unless something crazy happens.
Farther into the race, after, like we said, a slew of drivers had pitted at this point, Fernando ended up hitting the curb and his suspension failed.
This was crazy.
And this was something that after the race they all kind of talked about, and they had, was it Juan Pablo Montoya?
Yeah.
Is it Jacques Villeneuve?
Yeah.
And Jolyon Palmer, and they were all discussing how these cars, I mean, they can play a little bit of bumper car with each other, obviously not rough. They have to go over curves every single lap.
So for the suspension to fail like that makes no sense. There was already some sort of damage likely to the suspension.
Yeah, and it feels like Fernando cannot catch a win.
I mean, he's right. He might be the unluckiest guy in the world.
Yeah. So, like he said, it was unbelievable, and I just cannot wait till next year when an Adrian Newey designed car. By halfway, George became the first of the front runners to pit. Holding out seemed to be the top driver's strategy. A lot of them, started on hards. Were they on hards? And they were just kind of trying to go for as long as possible. Lap 33, Charles pits, but is not happy with the team's decision at all. I don't think he wanted to pit this early. I feel like he wanted to follow a similar plan to Max and McLaren. And it's just, again, I feel like Ferrari, it was a lot more positive of a weekend, it seemed, but it's still, there's always discourse.
Yeah.
Lap 37, Max decides to pit, and the McLarens still have not at this point. So Max pits and ends up back on the grid behind the McLarens with them in the lead. And at, probably, I mean, it's 37 of 53.
It was like lap 44 is when they went in finally.
Yeah. I have lap 45. But basically, all the pundits were saying that McLaren was waiting to see if they would get, as David Coulthard kept saying, a gift from the racing gods in that of a safety car.
They almost did.
So around this time, Carlos and Ali were battling it out.
Ollie.
I said Ollie.
Oh, I thought you said Allie.
No, Ollie.
Okay.
Sorry. Anyways, we're battling it out, and then they collided. From the look of it and what a lot of the pundits were saying, there was not a lot of room given by Carlos.
There was none.
And the frustrating part was when it was investigated, Ollie would end up getting the 10-second penalty.
And it was like, okay, so last weekend, Carlos got screwed by getting a 10-second penalty for something that Liam Lawson did. And then this weekend, Carlos is the reason why that Ollie got a 10-second penalty for something that Carlos did, though. Like, this is really Carlos's fault.
Yeah, and that's what, the presenters were saying while we were watching. They were like, Carlos did not give Ollie the room.
No.
So it was a bit of a confusing call, but
it's the stewards. What are we surprised?
From the stewards.
The FIA does it every time.
So this happens. There's a second where I think everyone's heart stops and they're like, is there going to be a safety car? There's a yellow flag, and immediately both cars turn themselves around and get back on and continue the race.
Yeah.
So it was a yellow flag for a hot second, and then it went back to a green flag. I don't think there was a lot of debris on the track either.
No, they didn't actually legitimately Yeah. I mean, they crashed, they both spun, but there wasn't debris anywhere, I don't think.
Lap 45 of 53 is when McLaren finally pits. They were really, like we said, waiting for that safety car.
And this was another shit show in the McLaren playbook.
Yeah. So Oscar had a great stop. I think it was 1.9 seconds. Now, Lando had a terrible stop. I think it was 5.9 seconds. And when they were planning on doing the stop, Lando was like, have Oscar pull in first, and I'll do the second pit stop. That way, apparently he can hold off McLaren or Ferrari. So they do that. So Oscar stops first. And when Lando has this extended pit stop, Oscar passes. He
can't slow down.
He can't slow down. He ends up getting in front of Lando and is in second place. Now, McLaren ultimately ended up ordering Oscar to give back the position to Lando. They brought up, was it Hungary of last year?
Yeah, Oscar's first win.
Oscar is a little frustrated initially, but gives back the position faster than we've seen. I think we've seen. And by the time they finish the lap, the final lap, Oscar kind of makes a comment of, I'm ad-libbing, so I'm sure someone will find the exact one, but now that I've thought about it, I was okay with the move. I was just frustrated in the moment. And then it came out that in Lando's post-race interview that this is something that the team had discussed. And it was interesting because...
Well, I think when he said that this is what was discussed, I think that was all the radio messages.
Yeah. And so I think it's just...
I don't think it was a pre-plan... I don't think they talked about it before the race actually started.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are intrigued to see if this is going to be a continued pattern, if this was just a one-off situation where, we're giving you something back for Hungary. I
think that now that they've done, they've kind of made it even, Lando had to give up the spot in Hungary because the team messed up and Lando was ahead of Oscar then when Oscar should have been ahead. And then now, same thing kind of happened this time. I think that now that they've done it like this, I don't think that they can be in the business of doing it again.
I mean, people are critical. And one funny moment was... Max had, like we said, an old school level Max win. It was by a 19-second lead over second place. And as he was finishing up the final laps, his race engineer gets on and explains what McLaren did. And he's like, Oscar just gave Lando back the place. And Max just laughed and was like, because his pit was slow and was kind of, take it how you will. I'm not going to speak for the man. But the impression I received was that it was disbelief of why? That he couldn't, I couldn't imagine if Max were.
But also, can you ever imagine Max playing the team game? No.
No.
That's a difference.
And so that's,
Is that Oscar and Lando have been trained by McLaren that they have to play the team game.
Yeah, and I mean, it's worked out in their benefit. I mean, they're battling.
I mean, I understand. So the commentators afterwards were making very clear points in the fact that, like, this is McLaren's way of being like, we don't want to have anything to do with the Drivers' Championship. Like, this is all, like, we are making it as fair as possible on our end so that it's just up to the driver, whoever has the best drive that day. But, like, a lot of, like, on the other hand, a slow pit stop, that is part of just racing. Like, the team messing up the orders, that is kind of just part of racing. Like,
I mean, we've seen it happen before where there have been mistakes, and it's just the way it's just the way it happens.
Yeah.
And to account for that, to make those edits, I think that's where a lot of the pundits were starting to get uncomfortable, because it was like,
I think now that they've done this, they've made it even. Like, one has done it for the other one time now. I don't think that they can do this ever again. Because I think if you start keeping track of this and they start doing this all the time, it's going to get really messy and the drivers are going to start to get really pissed off.
Yeah. So Max, like we said, ended up winning by 19.207 seconds, showing us a Red Bull finish of old. And the results ended up being Max in first, Lando in second, Oscar in third, Charles in fourth, George in fifth, Lewis in sixth, Alex Albon in seventh, Gabby Bortoletto in eighth, Kimi Antonelli in ninth, Isaac Hadjar in 10th, Carlos in 11th, Ollie in 12th, Yuki Tsunoda in 13th, Liam Lawson in 14th, Esteban Ocon in 15th, Pierre Gasly in 16th, Franco Colapinto in 17th, Lance Stroll in 18th, Fernando Alonso did not finish, and Nico Hülkenberg did not start. So,
all right, let's get into our final thoughts. There's a few different drivers that I want to talk about. Gabby's one of them, and his performance. I think Isaac, his win last week definitely puts him up for Rookie of the Year, but I actually think Gabby's consistent performance could give him Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, I mean, that was one thing that I think it was it Jonathan Wheatley during the pre-race show that complimented.
No, it was Matteo, it was Binotto.
Yes, yeah, on the track, on the grid walk, he basically was like, Gabby's very consistent. Like, he's proven to be the most consistent rookie. And yeah, I agree. I feel like consistency is something we've seen win drivers' championships.
Yeah.
And so I think he's been handed quite a difficult car that's had extreme ups and downs.
Yeah.
But he's in the points.
Yeah, that's all that matters.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Like we said, I don't think this is the success that he was expecting. I think, James Vowles at the beginning of the season was give him 5 to 10 races and he'll find his footing, and I think he's still trying to find his footing. I can't imagine him leaving the team right now. I mean, my big question is,
he wouldn't have anywhere to go.
Where would he go? I am curious to see what the 2026 regulation changes that we're getting next season.
Because Williams has been saying that they've been working on this car for years.
Yeah, and I think we haven't seen a regulation change before since we've been fans, and so I don't know what to even expect, if it's just going to be like a, throw a dart at a board with your eyes closed and see where it lands type situation. Who knows how this is going to shuffle out. So I would hope he gives it another season or two to kind of see.
At least one more season.
Yeah. Where would he go? That would be my
question. So Ferrari, they came 4th and 6th. This is the first time that we watched Monza where there wasn't a Ferrari on the podium, which is a little strange.
That's where they've been for the last few races.
I know, but usually it feels like they somehow pull it out of a hat.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like a great car. I mean, it was an unforgettable performance last week. I mean, at least they were in the points this week, not to be a Debbie Downer, but I think
I think it's truly the car. Because there's no way that both Charles and Lewis are incapable of getting on the podium.
Yeah, and I feel like they just keep landing in this like upper midfield. That's where they just keep falling. And it's not a bad place. I mean,
No.
they're going to end up in like 4th or 3rd in the Constructors'
Yeah, I think
Championship.
they'll end up
So like
third.
good on them, but I think they're struggling. I think the car's not great. I don't think Lewis can figure out the car at all for some reason.
How long do you think Lewis will stay? One more year at least, and then reevaluate?
Yeah. I would say again, I think a lot of people that change that it's their first season on this team, if the team wants them, I think they'll stay. Why wouldn't you to see
Yeah.
it's a completely different car.
Well, and I think that the regulations are going back to making the car a little bit more like they were when Lewis was winning everything.
Yeah. So, I think he'll do another season. I mean, Toto was quoted at one point, I
This
think
is a
this
crazy
weekend,
quote, but it's true.
kind of being like, you know, no one really ever talks about the Schumacher Mercedes years, and those were his last years in the sport, but they were not very memorable. And, I hope that Lewis has some very memorable ending. But I don't know. It's been a weird transition, I feel
Again,
like.
I don't think it's the year that he expected either.
Yeah, and I don't think it's the year Ferrari expected. I think it's.
Oh, 100% not. I think Ferrari expected to be winning.
Yeah,
this year.
I think they expected to be on the tippy top.
Like, I think they expected them to be rivaled with McLaren.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. I feel like there's somebody else that I wanted to talk about. I think that's actually everything F1 related.
Yeah.
IndyCar, that's F1 related though. Cadillac was there this weekend at the F1 race. So
Yeah.
at least representatives of Cadillac. And they were asked about the Colton Herta move, which I don't know if we discussed this. I think we talked about rumors. No, we did discuss this in the last episode. So yeah, Colton Herta has left IndyCar. He's no longer racing with Andretti. Will Power took his seat after he left, and he was announced as the Cadillac reserve driver, test driver. And then there were rumors that he would be going to F2. And then this weekend, the representative for Cadillac was asked, is Colton Herta going to F2? And he was like, yes, we are finding him a seat in F2 as long as everything pans out. And the reason why he's going to go to F2 is because he needs the points from F2 for a super license so that he can get into F1. I really do hope this plays out in his favor. Like, he didn't just leave like a pretty decent career in IndyCar to potentially not ever make it to F1.
I mean, I'm sure if worst case scenario ends up happening, I'm sure he could always enter the IndyCar paddock again.
Oh, 100%.
He had insane success there in the small amount of time that he did race, but I think for us at first we were a little stumped, and then we kind of read more into it, let the news settle, and it made more sense. Because I do think Cadillac wants to bridge a gap between IndyCar and F1 a little bit.
My only problem is the reason why he has to go to F2 is because IndyCar on the point scale and the FIA is ranked somewhere between F2 and F3.
Make it make sense.
So you're saying that IndyCar's performance and like experience level is in between an F2 and an F3 car? I don't believe that whatsoever. Like, it should be, but I understand it not being as many points as F1, but it should be above F2. 1000%. Because what you're saying then, the guys like Callum Ilott and Robert Schwartzman who have done F2 are going to go over to IndyCar and it's a downgrade? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It doesn't make sense to me.
Like, for me, Colton Herta going to F2, that feels like a downgrade.
Yeah.
But like, it really just feels like he needs the experience of F2 to get used to the tracks.
True.
Because he hasn't driven in these kinds of tracks, I don't know if ever. But if he has, it's been years.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know if he's done European Formula racing
ever.
At all.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I really do hope for, the representation that he is for IndyCar, that it ends up working out in a really good, positive way. I think it would be really cool.
Yeah.
To kind of get like not the first, but like a real like true comparison for our generation of like the sport.
Yeah.
Because I know it's not the first time that drivers have switched between the two, but
I mean, we've had drivers switch between the two, and like usually it's going from F1 to IndyCar, and they've performed similarly from going from F1 to IndyCar. They performed similarly, if not like slightly better than they did in F1, but it's not like that drastically different.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's interesting. We'll see how it goes. So the next race is going to be in Baku, Azerbaijan. We are going to do a get ready episode for that one. Applause, everybody.
Yay.
We haven't done that in ages. That will be coming out probably next weekend, and then the Baku episode will happen eventually. Yeah, we're making sure we're not missing any episodes from now until the end of the season. We're planning everything out, so you don't have to worry about us. We're gonna get everything
you
out.
guys were worried.
I know. I'm tired of us coming on to an episode
and
being
apologizing.
like, sorry guys, we just had so much going on. It's been so busy. We've been all over the place. No, we are getting everything done. We are on top of it again. We are back in it again. So, all right. Anything else?
No.
Okay. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.